steps to follow. So let's get through these steps together. Step 1 of the ab master plan, if you want a six-pack, is this. You're going to pick one stretch-based exercise for ab isolation, and you will do it for a total of 6 to 9 sets a week. 6 to 9 sets a week. You can dispatch them however you see fit. You can do it 3 sets, 2 times a week. 3 sets, 3 times a week. 2 sets, 4 times a week, plus an additional set on a given day. It does not matter. The only thing I tell you not to do is don't do all of your sets on one single day. Don't do 6 or 9 sets on one day. Always do 3 to 4 max. 1 to 2 is also perfectly fine. This is the guideline to follow. It's as simple as this. This is your step 1 and it's what I want to follow. I insist on the fact that you are not to do more. 6 to 9 and that's it. The logic behind it is very simple. When you get started with ab isolation, your abs have never been worked directly before. They got worked coincidentally as you did other movements. So any amount of isolation and direct work is going to result in massive hypertrophic boost. In which case, it would be idiotic to do more. We want to get as much as possible from as little as possible. And I insist on this point because many times when you look up ab routines or how to get a six-pack, you are inundated with a bunch of people who tell you that, oh, if you want a six-pack, you have to train them all the time a ton. You have to do them every day for 2 weeks. These things simply don't work. They're just gimmicks that influencers run because they know that it's motivating, you feel the fire, and you're like, oh, I'll get it done. You do it for 2 weeks, then you never do it again, you look down, you don't have a six-pack. And you do that for years and years and years, and you never see result. Why? Because the type of training routine that hinges on motivation and not consistency can never provide any results, which is why my routine is the exact opposite. We won't do 15 sets of abs every day for 2 weeks. Instead, you will do 6 to 9 sets. You could tell me an age, 6 sets is not that much. Let's do simple math. If you stick to your 6 sets every week for a year, at the end of the year, you did 312 sets. Do you think that 312 sets of ab isolation is not enough to grow? The answer is no. Of course it's enough to grow. And guess what? If you compare with these ab routines, who wins at the end of the day? The guy who did 15 sets every day for 2 weeks, or the guy who did 312 sets in the entirety of the year because he stuck to it? Again, the answer is obvious. So 6 to 9. On top of that, I'm not going to get into the details of it, but in terms of recovery and in terms of hypertrophy linked to progressive overload, sticking to a lower amount of sets per week and actually doing it for a long time is of course much better for hypertrophy, and also it's seamless, it's easy. These ab routines, they're boring, they're painful, they're going to build a bad relationship with your training. My method, you won't even fucking feel it. 6 sets a week, you won't even fucking remember these sets. But it doesn't matter what you feel like throughout the sets. The work is still happening underneath the surface and you will see result. So this is what I want you to do for step 1. When it comes to the exercise, we're also going to keep it simple. I want you guys to do a sit-up. Not something fancy, not something with cables and rotations of the core and looking at the full moon. A sit-up, a movement where your pelvis, legs, and feet are stuck in place and they support motions of the torso while the spine flexes and extends as the abs have to assist with the movement. That is what a sit-up is. If you don't know how to do them properly, I made a video on sit-up tutorials and forms. I'm going to put it either in the description or the pinned comment. So check both, most likely in the description. But it's easy as fuck to do and you can do any variation you want. You can do them on the floor with your feet stuck underneath a rack or underneath furniture. You can do them on a decline bench, on a GHR, on a Bosu ball. I do not care. Just do sit-ups. Sit-ups, not crunches. Crunches look like sit-ups and many people have them confused, but they're not the same. A crunch is when you bring the upper body to the pelvis and the legs as the legs are up in the air. The difference is that in crunches, there is only flexion and extension of the thoracic spine and not of the lumbar spine, which makes them completely fucking worthless for hypertrophy. You can do 300 crunches every day for a year. You will see zero result because the stretching component is not there. We want a stretch-based movement, so we do sit-ups. If you want, and it's an option I give to you guys, you could also add an isometric movement to the step one. So you could pick something like a plank to complement your stretch-based exercise, in which case you would not do more work. We still do 6 to 9 sets, so you would do something like 4 sets of stretch and 5 sets of planks, 3 sets of stretch and 3 sets of planks, all right? Split in the middle. This option is mostly valuable for people who are new to lifting. If you're the type who doesn't know how to brace for squats, for deadlift, for heavy movement, these planks can actually teach you how to brace efficiently, so it will not be wasted effort. I do not recommend more advanced lifters do planks for the same reason. You already get so much isometric work through your compounds if you do them properly and heavy, which you should be doing if you want to get big, that it's a waste of time and redundant to add planks to the program. So we want to focus our hypertrophy points on the stretch and on the sit-ups if that is the case for you. Now here's the kicker. For step one, you will do these exercises unweighted, for as many reps as possible. We do not add weight, we do not count the reps. This is completely opposed to what I usually preach on this channel. I preach progressive overload via sets and reps and via weight on the bar. That is the way to go about it. But for the same reason as what I said earlier, at this stage of development, you can rely entirely on added reps for additional volume without having to up the intensity via weight, because volume accumulation at this stage is enough, even with no weight, to see massive results in hypertrophy. I also want to do that because I want you to develop a good mind-muscle connection with your abs, and I know for a fact that if I allow you to progressively overload on sit-ups, you're going to want to put a lot of weights fast, like novices always do. You're going to rush the movement, you're not going to give me a slow tempo, and you're going to fuck up the movement. So this is something I want to avoid. But it's not the only reason. You see, progressive overload to me is like a loaded rifle. I only want to use as many bullets as I need. And at this stage, I don't need many bullets. You can get results doing as many reps as possible with no weight, which is going to help us a ton, because when we move to step two, I'm going to be able to take that trap card, that additional help that will be adding weight to the movement so that we can trigger additional growth. So I repeat, at this stage of development, we get the most from the least, unweighted, as many reps as possible. And that stage, stage one, is going to last for as long as you see results and as long as you can add reps. You only move to step two either when the amount of reps or the amount of time on planks you can do becomes ridiculous. So when it starts to feel like you have unlimited stamina. Anyone who watched anime like I did when I was a kid and who got hooked on sit-ups because they saw people doing sit-ups on trees know what I'm talking about. You get to a point where you can literally do sit-ups for hours and you can just go pretty much indefinitely. If that is the case, it means that you're getting too strong for your own body weight and it's time to move on. So if that is the case, move to step two, that is just as easy